a storm on the horizon, how tariffs could impact everyday lives. Imagine walking into your favorite store, reaching for the products you've always trusted, only to find the prices have soared overnight. The cost of living is already a burden for many, and now unseen forces threaten to make it even heavier. This isn't just about trade wars or political strategies. It's about the hardworking family struggling to make ends meet. It's about the single parent stretching every dollar, the retiree watching their savings shrink, the small business owner fighting to keep their doors open. Tariffs may sound like a distant policy debate, but their effects ripple through every home, every wallet, and every dream. And if we don't pay attention now, the cost could be greater than we ever imagined. The question is, can we afford to ignore the warning signs? Rising costs for consumers, tariffs increase prices on everyday goods, making life more expensive for families. Strain on small businesses, higher import costs force businesses to raise prices or cut jobs, hurting local economies. Impact on jobs and wages. Industries relying on global trade may face layoffs, wage stagnation, or closures. Unseen burden on households. Hidden costs trickle down, affecting everything from groceries to electronics to healthcare. Long-term economic risks. Trade tensions can slow growth, disrupt markets, and create financial uncertainty for years. Picture this. You walk into a grocery store just like you have for years, expecting to grab your usual items, bread, milk, fresh produce, maybe a few household essentials. But as you move through the aisles, something feels different. The prices on everything seem higher than they were just a few weeks ago. At first, you assume it's a temporary fluctuation, something that will even out soon. But as the weeks go by, you realize that this isn't just a minor adjustment. The cost of living is rising, and no one seems to be talking about why. What many people don't realize is that behind these increasing prices are policies and economic decisions that often feel far removed from daily life, but have a direct and powerful impact. One of the biggest culprits, tariffs. When tariffs are imposed on imported goods, businesses are left with little choice but to pass those costs on to consumers. That means the extra expense doesn't just stay at the border. It reaches into every household, affecting the way people shop, budget, and live. It starts with small, almost imperceptible increases. A few cents more for a carton of eggs, a slightly higher price for a new pair of shoes, a few extra dollars for electronics, appliances, or even medications. Individually, these changes might not seem like much, but together they create a financial strain that weighs heavily on families, especially those already living paycheck to paycheck. For middle class and lower income households, these rising costs can mean tough choices. It might be the decision to skip fresh fruits and vegetables in favor of cheaper processed foods. It might mean postponing the purchase of a new refrigerator, even though the old one barely works. It could mean cutting back on family outings, delaying car repairs, or struggling to pay for school supplies. The reality is that most people don't have the luxury of simply absorbing these higher costs. They have to adjust, and those adjustments often come at the expense of their well-being and financial stability. But the impact doesn't stop at groceries and household goods. Tariffs can also affect energy costs, construction materials, and even the price of cars. If businesses face higher costs to import parts and raw materials, those expenses are inevitably passed down the line. The average consumer, who has no say in these policies, ends up shouldering the burden. Consider small businesses that rely on imported goods to keep their operations running. A family-owned furniture store that sources wood from overseas might have to raise prices just to break even. A local auto repair shop might see the cost of replacement parts skyrocket, forcing them to charge customers more or cut back on workers. Even a neighborhood coffee shop that depends on imported beans could struggle to keep prices affordable without sacrificing quality. And it's not just businesses feeling the pressure, workers do too. If costs rise too much, employers might have to freeze wages, reduce hours, or even lay off staff. For employees who are already working hard to make ends meet, this can be devastating. The cycle continues as higher prices lead to reduced consumer spending. When people tighten their budgets, they cut back on non-essential purchases. That means restaurants see fewer diners, retail stores experience slower sales, and service industries feel the pinch. When businesses struggle, they hire less, invest less, and the overall economy slows down. What started as a tariff on foreign goods quickly becomes a ripple effect that touches every corner of the economy. And yet, for many consumers, the connection between tariffs and their rising expenses isn't always obvious. It's easy to blame inflation, supply chain disruptions, or corporate greed without realizing that government policies play a significant role in shaping these financial realities. The effects of tariffs are often gradual, creeping into everyday life so subtly that most people don't recognize them until they're already feeling the strain. Small businesses are the backbone of communities, providing jobs, fostering innovation, and keeping local economies alive. From family-owned restaurants to independent retailers, these businesses thrive on a delicate balance of costs and revenues. But when tariffs drive up the costs of imported goods, that balance is disrupted, putting immense pressure on small business owners who already operate on thin margins. When tariffs increase the price of raw materials, businesses that rely on those materials have to find a way to make up the difference. For some, this means absorbing the costs, which eats into profits and makes it harder to grow. Others are forced to pass the increased costs on to customers, making their products less competitive. Either way, small businesses find themselves in an increasingly difficult position, trying to navigate financial challenges that are beyond their control. A local clothing boutique, for example, may source fabric from overseas manufacturers. If tariffs make that fabric more expensive, the cost of producing clothing rises. The boutique owner now faces a dilemma: raise prices and risk losing customers, or keep prices steady and accept lower profits. Neither option is ideal. If customers decide the clothing is too expensive and start shopping elsewhere, the business may struggle to survive. If the owner chooses to absorb the cost, it becomes harder to pay employees, invest in marketing, or expand the business. The same challenge applies to restaurants, bakeries, and coffee shops that rely on imported ingredients. A neighborhood bakery that uses imported chocolate, flour, or nuts could suddenly see its ingredient costs spike. The owner may have to decide whether to increase prices on menu items, shrink portion sizes, or find lower quality substitutes. These decisions are not taken lightly, as customer loyalty is crucial, and even small changes can drive customers away. Service-based businesses also feel the impact. A construction company that depends on imported steel and lumber may see costs rise dramatically due to tariffs. With higher prices for essential building materials, projects become more expensive to complete. The company may struggle to stay competitive when bidding for jobs, leading to fewer contracts and less work for employees. A similar story plays out in auto repair shops, where tariffs on imported car parts force owners to either increase service prices or accept shrinking profit margins. For retail stores that sell imported goods, the situation can be even more challenging. A small electronics store that stocks gadgets and accessories from international suppliers may suddenly find itself in a difficult spot when costs rise. Customers who are already price conscious may turn to larger retailers or online marketplaces that have the financial power to negotiate better deals. This leaves small business owners fighting an uphill battle, trying to stay afloat, while competing against corporations that can afford to take losses in the short term. The financial strain caused by tariffs doesn't just affect business owners. It also impacts employees. When costs rise, Small businesses often have to make tough decisions about staffing. Hiring new workers becomes less feasible. Raises are put on hold, and in some cases, layoffs become unavoidable. Employees who have worked for years at a company may suddenly find themselves out of work, not because of poor business practices, but because of external economic forces. Beyond the direct financial implications, tariffs also create uncertainty, which can be just as damaging. When small business owners don't know if tariffs will increase or decrease in the coming months, it becomes difficult to plan for the future. Expanding a store, launching a new product line, or hiring more staff all require confidence in economic stability. But when government policies shift unpredictably, businesses hesitate to invest, fearing that new costs could appear at any moment. This uncertainty discourages entrepreneurship, making it harder for new businesses to get off the ground. Startups that rely on global supply chains may struggle to secure funding if investors worry about the unpredictability of tariffs. The risk of fluctuating costs makes it more difficult for new ventures to succeed, leading to a less dynamic business environment. When people think about tariffs, they often imagine them as a tax on foreign goods that primarily affects businesses and governments. However, what many fail to realize is how these economic policies quietly place an unseen burden on households. Families may not notice the effects immediately, but over time, the rising costs of essential goods and services begin to weigh heavily on their daily lives. One of the most direct ways tariffs impact households is through higher prices on everyday necessities. From groceries to clothing, electronics to household appliances, nearly everything people rely on is part of a global supply chain. When tariffs are placed on imported goods, companies must pay more to bring products into the country. Those additional costs do not simply disappear. They get passed down to consumers in the form of higher prices. A simple trip to the grocery store becomes a more expensive outing as the cost of fresh produce, dairy, and meat rises. Many of these products are either imported directly or depend on foreign-made equipment and supplies to be produced. Families that were once able to fill their carts with a variety of nutritious options now have to make difficult choices, prioritizing the cheapest items over healthier alternatives. The quality of meals declines, and the ability to afford nutritious food becomes a struggle for lower-income households. Beyond food, essential household goods also see price increases. The cost of replacing a broken refrigerator, washing machine, or air conditioner suddenly becomes a much larger financial hurdle. Electronics, which often rely on components manufactured overseas, become more expensive, making it harder for families to upgrade phones, laptops, or other devices needed for work and school. Parents trying to buy school supplies for their children are faced with rising costs on backpacks, notebooks, and even the basic materials teachers rely on in classrooms. The financial strain doesn't end with purchases. It extends to monthly bills and unexpected expenses. Tariffs on imported oil and gas can lead to higher energy prices, making it more expensive to heat homes in the winter and cool them in the summer. Families already struggling with tight budgets feel the added pressure of increased utility bills, forcing them to cut back in other areas. When fuel costs rise due to tariffs, transportation becomes more costly, impacting everything from daily commutes to family vacations. For households that already live paycheck to paycheck, even small increases in expenses can have a significant impact. Parents may have to take on extra shifts or second jobs just to keep up with rising costs. Savings accounts meant for emergencies or future goals get depleted faster than they can be replenished. The ability to afford medical expenses, home repairs, or even a child's college tuition becomes more uncertain. Financial stress increases, and families find themselves having to make sacrifices that were previously unthinkable. One of the most frustrating aspects of this burden is that it is largely invisible. Unlike a direct tax where people see money being deducted from their paychecks, tariffs impose costs in ways that are harder to track. A household may not immediately notice that they are spending more on groceries or paying higher electricity bills, But over time, the cumulative effect becomes undeniable. The household budget that once allowed for occasional luxuries and savings now barely covers the basics. The hardest hit families are often those with the least financial flexibility. While wealthier individuals may be able to absorb higher costs without making significant lifestyle changes, middle and lower income households have little room to adjust. The rising cost of goods forces many to rely on credit cards or personal loans, increasing debt levels and making it even harder to achieve financial stability. The burden of tariffs does not simply disappear once they are removed. By the time policy changes are made, families have already endured months or years of higher costs, depleted savings, and increased financial stress. For many, the damage is lasting as missed opportunities to save, invest, or plan for the future cannot be easily recovered. There comes a moment in life when opportunities knock softly, almost as if testing whether we are truly listening. These moments don't come with flashing lights or grand announcements. They arrive quietly, hidden in the midst of uncertainty, waiting for those with courage and vision to seize them. Imagine standing at the edge of possibility where fear and fortune collide. The stock market, a world often seen as unpredictable and overwhelming, holds within it a simple yet profound truth. The greatest rewards come to those who dare to see beyond the chaos, who recognize that every downturn carries the seeds of future success. It is during the storm, not in the sunshine, that true fortunes are built. When the world is filled with doubt, when headlines scream panic, and when others hesitate, that is the moment when the strongest foundations of wealth are laid. The secret is not in following the crowd, but in understanding that opportunity hides where most refuse to look. The road to financial success is not just about numbers and charts. It is about mindset, patience, and the ability to act when others are paralyzed by fear. Knowing when to buy stocks is not about luck. It's about recognizing the rhythm of the market, the heartbeat of opportunity, and having the conviction to step forward when others step back. For those who are ready to embrace this mindset, the rewards are limitless. The path may not always be easy, but it is one that leads to true financial independence and lasting success. Now is the time to learn, to prepare, and to act with confidence. Buy when others are fearful. The best opportunities arise during market downturns when stocks are undervalued and investor sentiment is low. Focus on long-term value, not short-term noise. Ignore daily market fluctuations and invest in strong, fundamentally sound businesses that will grow over time. Invest in what you understand. Stick to industries and companies you have knowledge about, ensuring informed and confident investment decisions. Patience is key to wealth building. The stock market rewards those who think long-term and allow their investments to compound over time.